Fancy seeing you here on a Friday morning. Not you, Elston. You work here. Say hi to our director, everybody. One of the hardest working men in show business. Pointing at monitors, pressing buttons, looking handsome as ever.
He's 6'8". Just kidding. No.
You guys ready for the weekend yet?
So ready for the weekend. Happy Friday, everyone. Now, my favorite thing, and I tell you guys about this all the time, on the weekends, is I get rid of social media.
Gone.
I try and not pick up my phone, like, at all. At all.
You don't respond to viewers. You don't talk to people.
Sorry.
Or family members.
It's my time. When I say my time, it's my family's time. It's time that I really just want to be present.
I do that with weather. I'll bump into people on Sunday and they'll say something like, hey, that big storm looks like it's going to hit tomorrow. And I'll be like,
Jimmy's like, that's a future Jimmy problem. That's not a today Jimmy problem.
Well, we're talking about phones because there was a new study that was just released talking about how phones can ruin relationships.
Yes.
The study, I think, had more to do with people being distracted by their phones.
Not
like
on your
finding
phone.
The secret picture folder on your phone or
because
the ex-girlfriend or whatever. Because, yeah, of course that'll ruin your relationship.
Yes. No, this is just about you being distracted on your phone and how that affects relationships around you, with your spouse, with your children.
So we want to know what you think. Get in the comment section right now. We'd love to hear from you. This show is all about you. It's not a news program, but it is a chance for you guys to weigh in on the topics that are affecting your lives. Has a cell phone ever ruined or damaged your relationship? Quick shout out to Tammy and George and Ray, Zeke, David, Eric, Candace, everybody hanging out with us this morning. Candace says social media is definitely ruining more and more relationships. I guess that's a function of being on your phone because you're scrolling through Twitter or posting stuff on Facebook.
So when I was in my last relationship, every night before bed, I'd scroll through Instagram. So, you know, we're hanging out and he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, on my phone, you know, going through everything. And it's like, that does take time away from the person that you're hanging out with.
Yeah, and apparently the people on Instagram are more important to you than the person sitting right next to you, which is the bad thing. You know what? Paige and Melissa both say people ruin relationships. Oh, Carlos is saying that too. But you know what? People are the ones making the conscious choice to look at the phone. So you're right. People ruin the relationship. It's not your phone that's begging you to look at it. It's your conscious choice to look at the phone over having a conversation.
How do you and Kim handle the cell phone usage? Because, not to make you sound a little older than I am, because it's only by a couple years.
Yeah.
But, But I mean, I feel like I was born and raised with a phone. Like, I got one when I was 12 or 13 years old. I've had one my whole life, basically, right? Wow. But like, cell phones have not been as prominent in your lifespan as they have been in mine.
They've been around for a while. I mean, I remember
remember
getting into a text fight with a girlfriend with a flip phone. With the ABC,
flip it out angrily.
Three times. You got to hit it 3 times to get the C and then the D. And you gotta, I mean, it was an extensive fight. It was. I'll never forget it. It was the longest, and it actually was kind of felt good that I did not have to talk to them or converse with them. But it took forever, you know, and then the phones kept getting better and better and better. But what Kim and I do is we leave the phones when we go out to dinner. They stay in the car.
Yes.
Or I'll just leave mine at home. But it is tough because I want to be like, oh, what are you looking at?
It is tough because a lot of people need to have their phones, whether there's an emergency. If you have a babysitter at home, you have to be careful about that with your kids. Of course, you're thinking, what if there's an emergency? They can't get a hold of me. And then also, you know, my husband works with property management, and so you have to have that phone with you all the time in case there are other emergencies. Like last night when people's ACs went out and when there was flooding and everything, and it's wild.
Miranda's got a little snark. She says, oh, yeah, phones ruin relationships, just like how guns get up and walk around shooting people.
Yeah.
Her point is...
We're not saying that it's the phone's fault. Please don't take that.
But I think that it is definitely people, but it's the way that people choose to use the technology.
Right. It's an added distraction. So what can we do to combat the distraction?
Well, they use their phone for everything. I told you guys earlier during the show, during football season, the guy I was dating was like attached to his phone because of fantasy football. But talking with all his buddies about it. They're watching the games. They're checking other games on their phone. Like, you have access to everything.
I have a story.
Yeah.
So I have a friend in town that I went out for dinner with last night. And he was telling me a story about he was with a girl, and he forgot to set his fantasy baseball lineup. And so they're sitting up in bed, and he starts messing around on his phone, setting his lineup because he doesn't want to lose. And she goes, what are you doing on your phone? And he goes, he was embarrassed to say setting his fantasy baseball lineup. She goes, are you taking pictures of me? And swatted the phone out of his hand. And it just so happened that when it hit the floor, the camera app came up.
No.
And there's nothing he could say to, like, get out of the situation because, like, what are you going to say? No, I was setting my fantasy. It's too late. She was furious. Like, made him leave, like, the whole 9 yards.
That could end the
how dare you?
relationship.
But he wasn't. He was just setting his fantasy lineup. And isn't that funny? That
I feel like that's an episode of like Seinfeld or
right.
something.
Real life.
That's crazy.
When it hit the ground, did it actually zap a picture?
I don't know. I didn't see it.
Wouldn't it be horrible?
His
like
shocked
her?
face, like, yikes.
Teresa made a good point. There should be a certain time to be on your phone. Quality time should be priority. There was another study that Snapchat just came out with a little bit ago that we were just talking about this. When you take pictures of an event, you're less likely to remember it.
Yes.
Not funny.
When I used to do my son's Little League.
Yeah.
These parents, they're like this. The whole dang game.
Right.
Versus, I have video of my son hitting home runs that I shot that I don't remember versus when there was no camera. I can tell you about it.
Because you're in the moment and you're present.
I'm like, no, I remember because they're saved to my phone.
Well, true.
I'm like, oh, that's where I went.
Because you were stuck in it. No, you don't.
My extra point was about this today. If you guys missed it on 12 today, I talked about the No Phones concert that Jack White hosted at Comerica Theater on Wednesday. I had the chance to go to that show. It was my first no phone show. You put it in a pouch, basically. You keep it on you, but you can't check it. And my extra point was about how many times you realize just in like sort of subconsciously that you're grabbing for your phone to check the time or to take a picture or to text a friend or whatever. And when you don't have that luxury, you're so much more in the moment. So if you didn't have a chance to see it, I'm going to post it on my Facebook page. We're going to get to that in a little bit. But first, or in case you missed it this morning, if you didn't watch the show today, we had another topic that was garnering a ton of responses from our 12 News viewers. Check this out. 12. We've been getting some of your responses this morning, not only about the weather, but about the story we had earlier in the show.
Yes.
About the 8-year-old girl who was walking her dog around her neighborhood.
Right. So the mom was able to, like normal, let her daughter take care of the dog. She's 8 years old, walked around the neighborhood. She got in trouble from Children's Services the day later. She got police reports and everything about her letting her daughter out by herself. So, of course, we're wondering, what do you think? Do you think that's warranted?
Is an 8-year-old responsible enough, basically, to be out on their own?
8 years old.
Jason says, listen, I didn't come home till it was dark. And if you came home before then, you needed to go to an emergency room. And I think a lot of us were raised that way, where you were kind of allowed to explore your own neighborhood as long as you didn't venture too far away. I mean, I remember when I was growing up, it was don't go past this street. You know, like if you can wander, but keep it, you know, within the parameters. We had an anonymous texter come in and say, I wouldn't let an 8-year-old go walk her dog. Said you need to be 12 years old. That was the line.
It depends on, I think, your neighborhood, and I think it depends on, I mean, I grew up in a cul-de-sac, so like you wouldn't really go anywhere other than that circle. So to give you a little bit more perspective, the mom has 2 kids. She's 48 years old. She let her 8-year-old daughter walk the dog around their neighborhood. A neighbor is the one who called police immediately and said there's a 5-year-old by themselves. The police came over to the house like within that phone call happening. The mom explained it to the police officers. This is what was going on. My 8-year-old just walking the dog. So it was done. No police report was filed, nothing. 2 days later, that's when Child Services stepped in and said, because this woman, the neighbor, apparently had called Child Services too and complained about some other things that were, in this mother's perspective, not true. You can hear more about it happening on the Today Show. And of course, the Today Show's website will have all the information that you need to know. So, but it begs the question, is it too young? Is 8 years old by yourself too young to walk a dog nowadays? You know, we all have our own perspectives of when things were.
The way things used to be.
The way things used to be, which it wasn't weird. Especially for me, I had a million brothers and sisters, and so we were all around together. But 8-year-old by yourself nowadays, is it too young?
We have a ton of responses from the viewers. I'm going to read a couple of those, and I'd like to hear what you have to say about this. Anthony texted in this morning to say, people need to mind their own business. He's putting the blame on the neighbor for calling the police on this. So although, you know, I can see where the neighbor's coming from, but Anthony says tend to your own fences.
She said, well, the mom said that the police should be going after the neighbor.
Right. Bill says it's just ridiculous. Let the kid walk the dog. And kind of what you said, we had a few anonymous viewers text in this morning and say, we're living in a different time. Things are not what they once were. A lot of people said if she was with a friend, maybe it wouldn't matter. If there was another sibling or something like that. Coach texted in to say he lives in a very safe part of Buckeye. He said he would not let an 8-year-old go walk around because he doesn't trust people. But if there were another kid, maybe it's a different situation.
I got so many things going through my head right now. First of all, I think we've covered horrendous amounts of child neglect that have gone on and on and on and on. That's not. I would tell that neighbor, you know, grow up. And DPS and all of those, whoever's handling it, Child Services, that, you know, let it go. But when I was a kid, it was still happening. It was always been. I hate it when people say that. So, oh, well, back in the day. No, it was all, we just didn't know about it.
We just didn't know about it.
We didn't know about the neighbor. So, you know, if it was my daughter, I would definitely would not. But I don't have a problem with it. I understand. And
there's something to giving your child a task to complete, which in this case, it was to take the dog out on a walk. Mom trusted her enough to take care of the dog, take it on a walk. We're not doing that anymore because we're not going to let our kids go outside anymore because of how things are.
You got to learn eventually, right? You have to learn that responsibility and how to be safe in a situation like that, right? Carol actually has a good idea. She said, I would have a GPS apparatus on her, whether it's a phone or something else.
That's true.
Not totally comfortable with letting her out of her sight. And that's what a lot of people are saying. Like, I think there's a legitimate fear. Maria says, I would never let my 8-year-old out of my sight in this day and age. You really just shouldn't. And as a parent, I have to imagine you would be second-guessing yourself forever if something were to happen.
Oh, my gosh, I can't even imagine that if something were to happen.
But not my neighbors, they have, you know, young kids walking their dogs, all, you know, cute little kids all over the place, so it's fine.
But there is new technology, like you said, to keep an eye on them. One of my good girlfriends, her daughter, she's not walking the dog, but she's learning how to drive, and so now she has access to her. It shows when the car starts, how far they go, when they stop driving, like it has everything. Even when she's texting and driving, it notifies her. And so at least you can help keep an eye on your kids that way, even if you want to give her the phone while she's walking the dog, to help, you know, feel a little bit better about the situation.
Well, if you talk about this day and age, maybe we have the technology to maybe sew something up in their jacket. Because a phone ain't going to matter. They'll throw the phone out.
Right.
But if they could, like, sew something up in the kid's jacket so that they can track them with the GPS, maybe that.
I think what was bothersome to me reading this report is how many cases of child abuse and child neglect
that goes on for a long time.
Yeah, that are even reported, that are reported or ignored, or they're missed in the system. And this is one that they pick up. You know, this is not a local story, so we're not saying anything about our local system, but
it looks bad on their system, if you ask me.
Yeah, it sure does. That this is one that they're going to follow up on. But what about the kid that hasn't eaten in 6 days, or what about the kid who, you know, whose dad beats him up, you know? And this is what they follow up on.
Let me get to a couple more viewer responses. Rogeria, I'm so sorry if I said your name wrong. She says she's watching from Brazil.
Hi.
We've got an international reach today. Shout out to everybody in Brazil. Bon dia. I learned that from the Olympics, eh? A couple other comments here. Ron has a great point. He says, fear-driven is no way to live. Eventually, even as a parent, you have to let go of the reins a little bit. I want to address what Aaron had to say, too. Aaron, your opinion matters to us just as much as everybody else does. You say there's too many other issues going on to worry about a little girl walking her dog. I agree. There are a whole bunch of issues that we could be talking about on this show, but I think it's important to get your perspective as our viewers, and those of you that have kids, about issues that affect us every day. I mean, there are so many parents that watch our show that are responsible for making informed parenting decisions, and I think it's healthy to have a dialogue about something like this where it's like, there's not a yes or no answer. There's no black and white to this. It's always a case-by-case situation. But it's important to think about it, because if you don't think about it and just say, well, she's old enough, go outside and walk the dog, and then something happens, like we said, you'd be kicking yourself forever.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are saying it just depends on the neighborhood. But I think in this situation, which is interesting, is that this woman was comfortable in her own neighborhood, but it was a neighbor who called, who obviously didn't know the kid, thinking she was 5 years old.
But it's also scary because you can't trust other people. What if someone, even though your neighborhood is safe, what if someone comes rolling through and just snatches her up and takes her, and then she's gone, and that's it?
Good neighborhoods.
Yes.
All the time.
Yeah. You know,
Marnie texted in to say it matters, the neighborhood matters, the size of the dog she's walking matters. Because if it's a big, scary dog, maybe less likely that something were to happen. She says she lets her 10-year-old do it, and it teaches her responsibility.
I know, that's the trade-off, is that you're missing out on something that, responsibility, right?
But what about maybe going in the backyard and picking up the dog's, you know, droppings, or maybe something like that instead, or feeding the dog, or instead of letting them
walking with your child.
Walk with them, yes. Like I think that's the way.
You need to walk.
In my opinion, if I had a child, I would walk with them, but I would have them have the responsibility of feeding the dog, picking up after the dog, doing things that are inside the house or in the backyard that I know that my child's safe.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's just so sad, like that. How much I feel like things have changed.
Karen says back in the day you knew your neighbors.
Yeah.
I don't know a single neighbor in my apartment.
Really?
I don't know a single one.
You need to move to my neighborhood, because I know almost everyone.
You guys all hang out, right?
We've got a great neighborhood.
That's a great point, Karen.
When I grew up, I'm telling you, I talked to a lot of friends now. A lot of bad things happened to a lot of my friends.
You just didn't know.
And you know what? You sucked it up. And now they're dealing with it now.
Well, and there was no Twitter or Facebook to post about it then either, Jimmy. I'm sure there were a lot of bad things that happened that you never found out about because there was no room for it on the front page of your local paper.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Everything is publicized so much more now.
We're in a better time now.
You think it's better?
It's way better because we know it. And if something happens, we have victims' rights advocates. We have therapy.
You have Amber Alerts.
About
you have, I mean, I get it on
way
my
better
phone.
now. Yeah.
That's a good point. And if you look at crime statistics, especially stuff like this, they have gone down since like the 70s. But we hear about it more because we're staring.
You look at the unsolved crimes from the 70s and the 60s. People that just disappeared that we don't know what happened. Now we have forensics. It's amazing.
Yeah. Group chats now. There's somebody in my neighborhood. There's a mysterious car. There was someone lingering too long in front of this house. There's a big group chat on Facebook for different neighborhoods.
Folks, this is the good old days.
And it tells you everything. Yeah.
Oh, Erin clarified her comment. She was referring to the neighbors worrying about it, not our conversation about it. My bad, Erin. Sometimes it's tough to interpret people's meanings.
I think we nailed it on the head, though.
My ex-girlfriends will tell you the same thing. I can't figure it out.
I think it's just, you want to avoid this, and you go outside.
Yeah,
with your kid.
You go outside with
your kid. You don't necessarily need to walk them the entire time, but be outside and watch as they go around the neighborhood.
Get off your tail and follow them and walk with them. I would do it. I don't think she's a bad mom at all. I don't think you should call Child Protective Services, but as a father, I would definitely walk with my daughter.
It brings up another point. Every single state has different laws when it comes to children being on their own. Utah just passed a really big law about that. Walking to school. I walked to school when I was a kid by myself with my. But I mean, not by myself.
You had your siblings.
But I had a million siblings.
Yeah.
But nope.
No parental
Who lets their kids walk to school anymore?
I missed the bus at school. I walked 2 miles back home by myself.
Yeah.
Really? See, my situation's different. I'm an only child, and my parents were extremely strict growing up. So I couldn't even walk. My junior high was across the street from one of my girlfriend's houses. They did not let me even walk to that house. Like, I had to be picked up all the time. I couldn't go to the mall. Like, they were so strict. I couldn't go anywhere by myself. Like, I could go outside because I had a cul-de-sac too, but they were usually outside. My dad was working in the garage or doing something while I was outside playing.
Michelle has a great point here, a little like actual experience that she's had. She had a neighbor who's 7 years old, and he wanted to have his own job in the summer. So he left notes on the neighbors' doors saying he wanted to be a dog walker for them. She had to turn him down because she had a German Shepherd, big dog. But how sad is it that he can't do something like that because we have to worry about sickos in this world? When I was a kid, I used to go door to door. Okay, this is kind of embarrassing.
Here we go.
We had an encyclopedia at home, and I'm not trying to sound too much like a nerd, but I was fascinated with space as a kid. I loved space facts. I found in the encyclopedia how many stars at that time we thought were in the universe. And it was a huge number with a bunch of zeros. And I wrote it down on a piece of paper in crayon and said, this is how many stars are in the universe. And I made like 10 of them. And I walked to every neighbor's house on our street, and I knocked on their door, and I gave them the piece of paper because I felt like that was information that they should know. Can you imagine doing that in today's day and age? Going door to door with something as silly as the number of stars in the universe?
That is so cool.
You know? Because, like, but seriously, would parents today allow their kids to do that?
No, I don't know.
Now, my son was selling car washes and stuff to raise money for the baseball team. And there was a guy that we met, some stranger, and he says, well, I want him to, he's got to come to my house himself and ask. And my mom, who was watching him at the time, his grandma, said,
No.
He's
not going
to your house by himself to ask. It's not. This is wrong. We know better now. I'm telling you, there were no good old days. They were just as bad, only they were more hidden. Now we know better. This is a good old day.
And I still think that you should give your kids that opportunity to knock on a door and to
show up, be there.
But you stand right behind them.
Yeah,
exactly.
Just like trick-or-treating.
My son would like to say something.
Trick-or-treating. You take the kids trick-or-treating.
Just have their back.
All right, let's get to one of today's trending topics. This is called Fresh Squeezed Juice. It's a take on the juice, which we have every day on 12 today.
Okay, trending today, a dad's incredible sign of support for his young son, Drake Britt's 1-year-old son, Damien, had to have emergency surgery to remove a cyst from his brain.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, look at that. And that surgery, left little Damien with a big scar on his head. Well, thankfully, we can say Damien is doing fine, and the scar doesn't bother him now, but Dad wanted to make sure his son would never feel different. So he got a tattoo of the exact same scar. Dad's saying that now Damien won't be the only one who will have to have a scar for life.
I have chills.
Got goosebumps there.
Sorry, guys, that I kind of butchered at the beginning. But that is so sweet.
That's what a dad is right there.
I love that so much. I've seen that happen to a few parents. Oh, it's so great.
I got what Rob Karlmark says. You're right. Kids are safer now.
Oh, Rob is a doll.
We know better.
That is such a touching story.
That is a great story.
Do you know?
Do you want me to read this?
Yes.
No. 12 News is everything Arizona.
Oh, we're going to go right to the extra shot.
Are we going right to it?
We're not going to extra shot? Oh, we
can go extra shot. We'll get back to the comments in a minute.
Sorry, everyone.
This show is fluid. We can do whatever we want because it's the internet.
12 News is everything Arizona. We're taking you everywhere from A to Z. Next week, we're celebrating Payson. Team 12's Crystal Henderson has been checking out the best places to go and things to do everywhere A to Z in Payson starting Monday on 12 today. If it's from Crystal Henderson, you know it's gold.
Quality.
Yes,
and if you're from Payson or you just love Payson, get your pictures in. We love to use them on our shows. We speckle them into the shows throughout those A to Z weeks. Use the hashtag #BeOn12. That means we can use your stuff on the air. Otherwise, you know, it's not legal.
Have been on vacation there, you live there, send us pictures, videos. We love to show it.
Maria says that story about the scar was so sweet.
So sweet.
I agree with you. That was very sweet.
Or like how I love to hear the stories how people in the family, like say someone's battling cancer and they lose their hair, so then their family members shave their head or their friends shave their head so that way they don't feel, you know, different.
So Kimberly's worried about the technology that you brought up.
Okay.
She says it's a plus and minus to have the technology we have today that we didn't have in the 70s. More chances of hackers and creeps out there that can get into your technology and track you as well.
Yeah.
Kind of a double-edged
There's
sword.
good with bad, but I've always thought of inventing a shoe that you could put like a
Wait, don't tell me your $1 million idea.
Yeah. Well, you guys can have it.
Oh, okay.
No, I think someone has to.
I mean, because usually you find out your kid's gone within 15, 20 minutes an hour.
You know what's funny is that you have people who fight back on those ideas, like, oh my gosh, their privacy or this or that.
The government will be
like, no. He doesn't get that luxury until he's a little bit older.
Yeah. And by the way,
because if this is a way for me to keep track of my children, then I would do it.
Would you? This is a little left field, but would you microchip your kid?
Oh, I don't know.
If given the opportunity.
Wait, it sounds it sounds like it would hurt.
But no. Let's say it's completely painless, kind of like they do for pets.
Yeah.
Right? Like, let's say you had an app on your phone, the Eli app. Call it Eli, and say, well, just one little prick here. He's gonna have a tiny microchip that you can call up on your phone. You'll know where he is if he ever goes missing.
Sounds like
if his heart rate gets out of whack
like a
or whatever.
Stephen King novel.
I think the technology's already there.
How about a microchip in Eli's shoe?
Yes.
Boom.
And not in his body?
How about in his foot?
No.
In his body?
Jacket, something you can put in his jacket or his shorts
like he's wearing a jacket, or or he has like one of those watches that a lot of the kids have that act as a phone.
Between where they go, where they are, and you find in your child alive and well.
Gosh, this is heavy.
This is really good stuff.
Yeah.
This is heavy. I'm
hearing some $1 million ideas. It's got to market that.
Seriously. Yeah. If anyone wants to invest, it's James Quinwans at 12news.com.
Romanian.
Maria says she loves us. We love you too, Maria, but she doesn't want chips, and she's got plenty of reasons for not putting chips inside of her children.
Yeah,
I can't blame you there.
Just watch your children. Spend time with them. Be around them if that's what you got to do.
George said Eli would be with the giraffes. That's so bad.
He does love the zoo. Oh, sorry, I just spit on you.
It's all right.
Oh, that's gross.
Oh, hey, listen to this. Michelle, have you guys heard of the tile? I have it on my phone.
The tile.
The tile. It's like this little chip, pretty much, that you can put on things. So when you lose it,
like your keys. We did a story about it. You can put it on your keys in case you lose your keys.
Yeah. So where is she? Michelle. Michelle said she bought it and she put it on her dog, so she can track her pup. I think that's a good idea.
Vanessa's gonna put it on one of her ex-boyfriends.
Isn't that like a microchip?
To make sure I know where they're at all times. Hey.
Yeah, that's
cool. All right, guys. Before I accidentally spit on Jimmy's face again, I'm gonna go put some chips in my belly. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Happy Friday.
Hey, don't forget, Cardinals and Cowboys, Sunday Night Football, only on 12 News. We're going to do Cardinals locker room afterwards, too. So
also, $12 Diamondback tickets.
Yes, I was going to say, the D-backs playing all weekend long. So get your tickets, $12. Such an amazing deal.
It's the best time of year.
Mention 12 News. See you guys. Happy Friday.
I'll be there.
The show returns at 7:30 a.m. Monday morning. Be there or be square.
Love you guys.
Be safe, people.
Go D-backs.